and welcome back to the Bookworminchrist podcast. I'm Abena, and on this podcast, I talk about Christian fiction, mainly Christian romance. I share recommendations, reviews, and just general thoughts about the Christian reading community. Happy New Year. I can't remember if I said that already, but Happy New Year, and I hope your 2026 has been off to a great start. I had wanted to do a Christmas episode, but as most of you know, the holidays can get quite busy, and so I wasn't able to do that. And so here I am with my first episode for the new year. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about the read along I'm doing over on Storygraph. I'll do a mini book haul of some of the books I got for myself over Christmas, and then maybe a short review of the first book I finished this year. So let's get right into it. First off, I'm going to talk about the Christian romance read along that I've set up on Storygraph, and it's called the Redeemed Romance Readalong. And the idea is to spotlight Christian romances and also to read through some of the amazing romances that Christian authors are writing. And so we have 12 prompts. The idea is that each month will have one prompt. We may not stick to per month because I found that sometimes some of the books crisscross different tropes, but that's the general idea. And so for our first prompt, we are doing the second chance romance trope. And so I have some recommendations that I will share and some that I have already posted on my Instagram and TikTok. And so if you'd like to join in, follow the hashtag Redeemed Romance Reads 2026 and the hashtag Redeemed Romance Reads. And then if you're on Storygraph, the challenge is on there as Redeemed Romance Read Along. And please note that this is Christian romance only, not secular romance, not closed door or clean romance without Christian elements, but Christian romance. And so the books that are recommended in this challenge have to have the Christian faith as a key aspect of the story. Either we see that the characters are believers and we see them falling in love in accordance with Christian values, or it can be a coming to faith story. There are all sorts of ways that Christian romance is captured, but this read along is not for general romance. We don't want explicit books, we don't want open door books, and we don't want clean romance books that do not have the Christian faith centered. And I'm saying this, it would surprise people to know that, it would seem obvious that this is a Christian romance reading challenge. But someone went to recommend books, explicit romance books, on the Storygraph, and I had to take them off. And that's why I'm giving this clarification now. And so it's not just Christians reading romance, it's Christian romance books. All right. Because we want to spotlight Christian romances so that people realize that there's actually a huge variety out there and you're not missing out on anything by sticking to Christian romance. I hope that is helpful. And so actually, for the recommendations I'm going to mention right now, one of them I'm going to do a review of in today's episode. And the first one is From Ice to Home by Anne J. David. This is my first hockey romance. And if you're a romance reader, you know how popular the hockey romance should I say, subgenre is, particularly among book talkers. But funny enough, I hadn't read any of the secular hockey romances, but I was drawn to this book, and let me tell you, I enjoyed this so much. Let me hold on to my feelings till I get to the review section. So this is a second chance romance, and it's also a sports romance because it's set in the hockey world. And then another recommendation for the second chance romance trope is this, which is what I'm currently reading. As you can see, I've annotated a bit. I had to stop because my son has this funny habit, or he likes to have fun taking my tabs out. And so I had to give up at a point. I'll attempt again, but for now I paused somewhere. I've read further than where the tabs are. But this is a bookish romance as well, and it's a second chance, which talks about, three friends who basically, two of them are cousins, and one came into their lives, and they basically became a very tight knit group. And it shows how a tragedy makes their friendship fall apart, and then years later they have to come back together. And of course it's a romance, and so two of the trio were childhood sweethearts, and because of that tragedy they became estranged, and now we see how they are trying to find their way back to each other. Let me tell you, this book has had me crying in so many places, but it's so good. I never thought I would be recommending a book that would make people cry, but it is so good. It is worth it. So there's another second chance romance that I recommend for the Redeemed Romance Readalong. Okay, now to my mini book haul. So, of course, for Christmas, all bookworms, all we want is books. And so, but this actually highlights my change in perspective about books in terms of their acquisition and all of that. So, for those of you who have been following me for quite a while, I wasn't always focused on Christian romance. I used to read, secular romance, some of it explicit, and then, the Holy Spirit basically convicted me about them. And so when I switched, I got rid of, I should say, practically all my books. They were not all romance books, but I have this thing where I hate seeing books get dusty and have their pages getting yellowed, especially when I haven't read them. And so I prefer to either give them away or even sell them sometimes. And so I got rid of a whole bunch of books I had acquired post-pandemic. It's almost as if I went into panic buying mode because I don't know if I thought there would be another pandemic, and I was just hoarding so many books, and I sold practically all of them. I did some giveaways, and now my shelf is practically bare. Yeah. This, by the way, is the shelves in my bookstore. And so my shelves at home are empty. And I found that actually I enjoy giving books out now. Yeah, I know a lot of bookworms will be clutching their pearls in horror because, one of the things we hate about giving books out is that sometimes you don't get them back, or if you get them back, they are not in the best of condition. But this year, I feel like I'm going to start rebuilding my personal library, but with the caveat that for every book I buy, I'll buy an extra copy so that if I really enjoy the book and somebody wants to borrow it, I can give them the second copy. And secondly, because I want to annotate more, moving forward. I know some of my book club members will be crying at this, but annotating is quite enjoyable. But then I don't want to mar the experience of whoever will read after me. Some also have this thing where they feel like it's interesting to, for example, read a book, leave annotations, and then pass it on to a younger sibling or to a child, and then they see how you felt when you were reading it, which I think it's not a bad idea. But if I want to give a book out right now, like a book I'm reading, and maybe somebody in the book club wants to read it, I think I would want them to read it devoid of my own ideas. And so, yeah, I will be purchasing 2 copies of every book, one to annotate and keep, and one to perhaps give out for others to read. And so, yeah, I guess that's one of my goals for this year. I haven't explicitly written down my goals for the year, but I just realized that I'm going to rebuild my library and be more conscious of the kinds of books I purchase, predominantly Christian romance, of course, and I will be growing my Christian and fiction library as well, because in the past couple of years, I've come across quite a few which have been very impactful. And so, yeah, it's interesting how with each year, as we grow, things change about us, and clearly my reading habits have changed. And so, back to the book haul. In the past, if I had said I'm doing a book haul, 10 plus books, let me shock you. This book haul, 3 books. And so, first of all, I got Head in the Clouds by Karen Whittemire, who quickly became a favorite of mine. So I came across her when Becky Wade kindly donated a copy of a novella collection, which Becky Wade and Karen Whittemire contributed stories to. And then I looked her up online and I saw that she's written, like retellings, fairy tale retellings, but as Christian romances. And so I got To Love a Beast, which, do I have to tell you which retelling it is? It's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And let me tell you, I enjoyed that book so much. And so immediately she became a favorite author of mine. I really loved how she wrote that book. And hopefully later on this year, I'll be able to do a full review of it. And so because of that, I've started buying more of her books. And this one is, so most of her books are historical romance as well for those who are interested. And this one, let me just read the blurb. When a recovering romantic goes to work for a handsome ranch owner, her heart's not the only thing in danger. Adelaide Proctor longs to find a real-life storybook hero to claim as her own. My fellow bookworms will love this. But when her husband hunting debacle leaves her humiliated, she interviews for a governor's position on a remote Texas sheep ranch and vows to leave her silly romantic yearnings behind. Gideon Westcott left his privileged life in England to make a name for himself in America's wool industry, never expecting to end up with a child. To his dismay, 5-year-old Isabella hasn't uttered a word since she lost her mother. I actually didn't know what this book was about when I bought it, so this is really fascinating. The unconventionality of the new governess concerns Gideon and intrigues him at the same time, but he can't afford distractions. When Isabella's uncle comes to claim the girl and her inheritance, Gideon and Adelaide must work together to protect Isabella from the man's evil schemes. Soon, neither can deny their growing attraction. But after so many heartbreaks, will Adelaide be willing to get her head out of the clouds and put her heart on the line? Oh wow, this sounds so good. And this actually fits the prompt for found family and or single parents trope, which we will be featuring on the Redeemed Romance Readalong. I think somewhere in May, June, I think so. And so I'm excited for this. And then I got this book, which I had been eyeing for so long, and that is All's Fair in Love and Christmas by Sarah Monzon. I loved her book, An Overdue Match, and so clearly I decided that I had to get the rest of her books. And so this is a Christmas romance. And look, nobody said you have to read Christmas romances only during Christmas. Okay, there's no rule about that. And so this one is a workplace romance. And so we have two workplace rivals, one festive competition, and a romance that appends it all. Every December, two things are guaranteed for graphic designer Mackenzie Graham: Christmas celebrations and the annual promotion at her workplace. Those two things are by no means mutually exclusive. In fact, the better an employee is at harnessing the Christmas spirit, the more likely they'll win the new job. With her social anxiety, Mackenzie never thought she'd be a contender in her company's holiday competition. So how exactly has she found herself dueling her workplace crush with wrapping paper tubes and using tinsel as her weapon of choice for a much-needed raise? Jeremy Fletcher's life is meticulously planned out, including how to win this year's promotion at work. Not only will the new position fulfill some of his career goals, but as a single guardian to his twin niece and nephew, he needs the salary increase to support his family. Jeremy has barely noticed Mackenzie Graham around the office, but now that she's his rival, he can't stop thinking about her. Her quirkiness intrigues him, and he's afraid that if he can't get his head on straight, the promotion isn't the only thing he'll end up losing to Mackenzie. So, it sounds like a good time. And one thing I like about Sarah Monzon's books, from the one book I've read, is that she highlights should I say, health issues that usually don't get spotlighted, particularly in the romance genre. Because, for example, in An Overdue Match, she had the FMC dealing with alopecia, and then here we see that the FMC is dealing with social anxiety, and I think that's amazing. And now the third and final book I got was Before We Were Us by Denise Hunter. And this features one of my favorite tropes. I don't know if it's really a trope or a sub-theme, whatever, but a main character dealing with amnesia. And so this is actually also a second chance romance. And so I think we will add this to the read along as suggested or recommended books for the second chance trope. And here we have, she can't remember, he can't forget. When Lauren Wentworth wakes up in the hospital after falling from a ladder, she has more questions than answers, way more. She knows where she is, the wilds of New Hampshire, but she's apparently lost the last 4 months of her life. Is she really contemplating forfeiting her big city dream job for a position at a rustic resort? And how did her number one nemesis become her adoring boyfriend? Jonah Landry is crushed to learn Lauren has forgotten their entire summer together. Terrified of losing her for good, he determines to help her remember their deep connection as she finishes her obligation to the resort. But soon it becomes apparent Lauren doesn't want to remember falling in love with him or rethinking the entire course of her career. She wants to pretend the summer never happened and move on with her life without him. As Lauren falls back into the steady routines of resort work with Jonah, she's relieved her memories haven't returned and remains resolute about her big city future. But as autumn leads into winter, she begins to see glimpses of the Jonah she's forgotten. Will she be able to resist the steady love of this patient man? Or is her heart destined for its own free fall? I really love. So one book I read last year which featured this amnesia thing was Memory Lane by Becky Wade. I enjoyed that so much. And there's this movie. Let me see if I can find it. There's this romance movie that is famous for this amnesia trope. I think While You Were Sleeping. Is that the title? Let me check. I think that is it. And that's one movie I enjoyed so much while you were sleeping. Yes. So there's the 95 film which features Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman. That's the one I'm talking about. But apparently, when I was searching this, it looks like there's a K-drama for it, or a K-drama with a similar title. Interesting. But yeah, I was talking about the 1994 movie with Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman. But yeah, so these are the 3 books I got for myself for Christmas, and I'm looking forward to reading them. And yeah, all of them fit one trope or the other in the Redeemed Romance Readalong. So it looks like I am going to have to record the review of From Eyes to Home separately because I have a lot to say. And so, yeah, I think I will end today's episode here. And I hope you will join me on the Redeemed Romance Read Along. If you would like to join the book club as well, we're on Fable as the Bookworm in Christ Club. If you'd like to join the WhatsApp group as well, check the links in my bio on Instagram at Bookworm in Christ. And thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode. Bye.